Oh my god, did we actually find it? I think we did. Yep, found it. Alright guys, it's a pretty big deal here. We think we found the Ogopogo. The sighting in the flesh. Yep. This is the Ogopogo. It's pretty scary though. Running this guy underwater wouldn't be too fun. But you can see it's kind of like Nessie, but it's a serpent, right? Somewhere out in Okanagan Lake there, swimming around, hiding. The Ogopogo. It's a big legend in Kelowna too. Pretty scary staring on the eyes of that thing though. The Ogopogo store. See a guy tubing out there. I miss doing that. That's pretty fun actually. It's all water sports here too, like all the sailboats, tons of water sports. So we're carrying on with our next phase of the plan here, and we just come onto McCullough Road. So we're basically out of Kelowna now. And we follow this road to Myra Canyon basically, and then we're gonna get out at Myra Canyon and we're gonna go look at some trestles and some tunnels. And but this is McCullough Road, named after Andrew McCullough, the engineer who was responsible for designing and doing all the construction.
Take the next right onto Myra Forest Service Road.
Myra Canyon Trestles. So this is the official entrance way to the Myra Canyon Trestles.
Continue on Myra Forest Service Road for 8 kilometers.
Now, if this was in my truck, I would have my VHF RR5 zero up, but I don't, so it's kind of useless doing that. But yeah, here we go. This is Myra Canyon Forest Service Road. The way Myra Canyon works is there's no loop. You can't do a loop. So you got to either start on one end and walk all the way to the other end and then walk back, or you just do half, right? So some people do. So we're going to do half. So we're going to basically go 45 minutes from Myra, is where we are, and then go through a bunch of trestles, get to the tunnel, turn around at the tunnel and go back. But there's another route you can take the other way, and you start from one and go up, as far as you want to go.
Super pretty up here.
It's really nice. It's really calm.
It's nice.
Myra Canyon Trestles. So this is the trestle area. So we are officially at the trailhead or the beginning of the trail to the trestles. So just gonna go over here and give you guys a view of what's about to come. So we're pretty high up here. We were traveling pretty much uphill the whole time. You can see Kelowna or Lake Okanagan down there. So this is the road, right? So we were snaking up along there, all the switchbacks out of Kelowna. And this is the parking lot. We're currently here, right? Myra Station. Here's the gate. So we're gonna go all the way down here, right? All the trestles. It gives you the height markings, right, of all the trestles. It's the highest point. We're gonna go down, down, down. We're gonna go all the way to tunnel 2 right here, right? 1 tunnel, 2 tunnel. We're gonna come here, and then we're gonna go back, and then that'll be it. You could, alternatively, if you wanted to go from the other side of the canyon, you go to Roost Station, park here, and walk. But you can see trestle 1 and trestle 2 are quite far away, and same with 3. So it's a lot more walking without seeing much, whereas this side you'll see way more. And then it shows you all the trails too. Oh look, no drones. They already, yeah. Obviously, I'm not the only person that's had that thought. Yield to bicycles, yes. See the forest fire damage, right? So a couple years ago or a while back, there was a big forest fire that ripped through the canyon, and it actually destroyed all of the original KVR work. So it all was burnt and destroyed. You can see the charred remains of the forest here, right? This is coming back though. You can see the new growth coming back. But the Myra Canyon Trestle Society, which is the organization that oversees the maintenance and care of the trestles and was responsible for preserving it, They actually rebuilt them. After the fire was done, everybody was really upset and a whole bunch of stuff, obviously, right? So they actually put a whole bunch of stuff together and they rebuilt them. So the trestles we're walking are this exact same construction, modeled after the original trestles, but they are not original trestles. So just to clarify that. Okay, so this is Myra Canyon. This is a good lookout. You can see the actual canyon itself. So that's Kelowna over there. That's Lake Okanagan. That's West Kelowna. That would be one of the trestles. And the trestles were prefabricated in Carmi, which is a gold town, which we're going to be, Hard Rock Gold Town. We'll be stopping in Carmi tomorrow. But they prefabricated the trestles and then shipped them out here. But it's pretty crazy to think about all the guys, like, you know, guys had to work in this, like, and there wasn't like a nice little trail, right? Like, this is the railway path that we're walking on. Like, this whole thing is where the railway went. But before this, like, you know, guys were walking along the side of mountains basically, and a lot of guys died, and there's a lot of accidents, and it's hard work. So, but we're gonna come up to the first trestle here, the last trestle in the line, but the first one for us. And I also had to cut through the rock here. And the rock near Naramata, the Chute Lake, was really hard. You can see that to cut right through this rock, and then if they weren't cutting through rock, they were building trestles, or, you know, getting rid of bush. But they figured out that it was easier to prefab the trestles and then move them like out here, right? And then just place them in with the crane. Still, like, the logistical nightmare trying to do this, right? Like, just look at the terrain. Yeah, and you can see how fractured that rock is. So you wouldn't want any of those to fall on you. And that happened to guys. They'd be blasting and clearing rock, and rock would come and fall and hit guys in the head. And then, you know, it's the bridgemen that built these trestles were quite sudden. Like, you imagine working on a bridge trestle like 200 feet up in the air, just walking beams, nothing below you. Take one little tuff and that's it. The bridgemen were the ones that built the trestles. They had crews for rock blasting, drilling, clearing, laying track, doing everything, ballasting of rail and stuff. But the bridges were built by the bridgemen because you kind of need a specialized skill set to do that. So the bridgemen were tasked with building the bridges. It's all old timber work too. And you can see the canyon, right? The trestle, it basically runs all the way along the canyon, right? Like, if you kept following it, you'd end up over there at that trestle, right? This is the railway snaked right through this canyon. And, like, because usually when you build a rail, like the Kettle Valley defied a lot of railway logic, because when you build a railway, right, with the grades, you don't build a railway through mountains. You build it around them, or like through the valleys. But McCullough, he basically changed the system and decided, well, we'll build it through. We'll build it literally through the mountain or over the mountain, which is not really a thing that, you know, railways do. Oh, they use gabions instead. Nice, yeah. The wooden retaining wall, yeah, that's just, I like it, like exactly what it sounds like. It retains soil. But they just use gabion baskets with rocks. Those little baskets with rocks in them. Those wire mesh baskets, it's a gabion basket. This is a prime example of them cutting through the rock, right? They found the rock highly fractured and unstable here. Yeah, I can tell. Just by looking at it, it looks highly fractured and unstable. Because, yeah, it's basically, this was supposed to be a tunnel. You can see it's all fractured and horrible. So they just blasted all this out, removed it, basically had a cut, right? Cut through the rock instead of a tunnel. But you see those anchors up there? I don't know if you can see them, but there's these, like, they're Dewey dag rods with a plate and a nut. And basically those have been drilled into the rock, and then they're grouted, and then they're pulled with a hydraulic press to a certain pressure. And then you release it, and then they're literally those tiebacks, I guess you'd call them, are literally holding the rock in place with the pressure of the hydraulic press and the nut. They have a chair, basically it's called tensioning. Tensioned anchors, it's a tensioned anchor, basically. So the anchor itself is under tension, and that plate is pushing against the rock, and it keeps the rock in place. They would have done this, this is modern though. I don't think they would have done this back then. This looks pretty modern. So look how fractured it is though. I don't blame them for cutting this. This is like, I wouldn't want to take a tunnel through here. Oh, it's crack everywhere. You can see really good here. This is what you can see them better. So the anchor itself is a Dewey dag, and then they got a nut. And then that plate's basically a washer. and then they're tensioned, and they hold the rock face in place with tension.
And they're all rated like, not that kind, like cameras in the section.
More forest fire damage though. That's a really nice view of Kelowna actually. You can see Kelowna right through the canyon. Okay, so we're just coming up to the trestle now. So this is the first trestle on our side. As you can see, it's pretty simple, right? But this is where the surveying would have come in, right? So they would have had a level, and they would have had to survey the different heights, right? So they could get it basically level. Because you got different measurements over here, different measurements over there. So some guy would have a level, be looking to be a guy with a rod. The guy would be looking for measurements on the rod. Would tell the rod man up or down. The rod man would move up or down. And then they get their measurements. They do a whole bunch of math. And then that tells you basically your next elevation for, the top of the bridge deck or whatever, or piles, or however you're doing it. Because you can't have any more than like 2%, right? When we look at the underside of it here. So what they did was they poured foundations, right? They poured concrete foundations, formed concrete foundations. Then the trestles were prefabricated in Carmi, shipped out here, and then they had a crane. And the crane would come out crane would be on a train track, and it would come out and it would hoist one of these trestle sections into place and plop it down on the foundation. Then depending on how many trestles you have, like you can see there, right? You got one set here, but you need two there. So then they would tie them together with plates, cross bracing, bolts, horizontal members, and basically you can see all the cross bracing and horizontal members, right? It ties everything together, keeps it all nice and braced, but they didn't drive piles here, right? Like, so you could drive piles and then put it up, but all they did was basically form concrete and then put the trestles on top of the concrete with the cross bracings. You can see the cap and then the beams and then the deck and the railing. So this part where the butts up with the canyon here, this is called an abutment. And we're talking about retaining walls. This is an example of a retaining wall and an abutment. So this is the actual rail bed too, right? We're literally just walking on the rail bed. They pulled it up because, no point keeping it down, it wouldn't survive, but we're just walking on the rail bed. It was all the way around. So this is Myra Canyon, right? The actual canyon itself we're walking. We're manufacturing Carmi. And this shows you the map, the canyon, the rescue of the trestles as well, right? Because the Myra Canyon Trestle Society rescued these. Thank God they did. The most difficult section was the Coquihalla section, right? This section here that we passed in the morning, the Othello, Lear, Orm, Portia, Iago, Romeo. That was all those Shakespearean names I was talking about. Juliet, he liked Shakespeare, so that first chunk of the highway, the most difficult building, he named that. And then shows you right here, Myra Canyon, right? So this is where we are. And then Chute Lake, Adra, and Glenfier. These switchbacks here, that's where I was talking about with the grade change and how he had to. Those switchbacks are because he had to change the grade. I'll talk about that later, but. And then McCullough, Cookson, Carmi, Beaverdell, which is a silver mining community, Rock Creek, and then Midway. So this is the actual Kettle Valley Railway, the whole Kettle itself, from Hope to Midway. And then it went on from Midway to Castlegar, but that's a whole nother video, a whole nother time, a whole nother story. So these are the original trestles, right? Because they're all destroyed in the fire. So, they don't have them anymore. But they rebuilt them exactly as is, right? You can see all the cross bracing and the horizontal bracing, right? They literally just stacked them on top of each other and then braced them and put cross members in. And then books written on the Kettle Valley. If I could recommend a book, I'd say Myra's Men. The Building of the Kettle Valley. That's from where we are, Myra Canyon to Penticton. It's a great book. Definitely worth picking one up. You can pick one up. A lot of BC museums sell them. Oh, here we go. The fire. Perfect. So yeah, 2003 fire. Shows you they covered one in retardant. Completely destroyed. And they tried to fight it, right? Like it was all hands on deck to fight the fire, but they couldn't control it and it just burning, right? And some of this wood might have been treated with creosote, and creosote's incredibly flammable and carcinogenic. Once the wood catches fire, there's nothing you can do. You can't put it out, right? You're not putting creosote out. Creosote's the preservative in the wood to keep it from rotting. But the reconstruction phase, so you can see your pile drivers here and building the bridge. And this method here, right? They basically have done the same thing, but like, 100 years ago, but using the same method, right? And then you got the formwork, putting in the trestle sections and connecting them. You got your stringers and your cap. And then the restoration project. These are the guys, right? The Myra Canyon Trestle Restoration Society, all hard at work. Putting deck boards down, putting all the railings on, tunnel repair. Little baby trestle coming up here. Tunnel number 1 on the Myra side. That's as far as we got. But if you guys want to come down here, it's a 45-minute drive from Kelowna. They've got a bike rental place at the in the parking lot. You can come out for a picnic. Although some pretty hungry chipmunks. I don't know if I don't have a picnic here. But yeah, we're just going to be heading back now and be back on the road. And we're going to follow the Kettle Valley Trail for a little bit. We're going to stop at McCullough Station, take a look at that, and then we're going to go to Shoot Lake. There's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about at Shoot Lake. Buddy, you're barking up the wrong tree here. Like, I just came from there. Like, hope you're not going to Shoot Lake because you're gonna have a hard f***ing life.
Yeah, these two girls.
They're like, do you see their faces? They're like, what the f***? What the f***? No. Oh, they're in for a treat when they get up to the top there.